Hello and welcome to O Worm. Today we'll be looking at the anatomy of a clam. Clams, aside from being delicious to eat in a chowder, are also part of a large group of animals called mollusks. Mollusks include everything from octopods, squids, and cuttlefish. Because clams want to feel a bit more special, they're also part of a smaller group called bivalves, named as such because it has two shells. These are the two shells, and a hinge connects them here. Now, it may be difficult for you to tell which way is up with these things, because they refuse to be constrained by our standards of cephalization. The hinge area is actually the top or the dorsal side, while the opening is the bottom or the ventral side. By this, I mean that when the clam sticks itself in the sand, the hinge will be the part that pokes out. Now, if you look at the hinge, you'll see that one side is shorter than the other. The shorter side is the front or anterior side, and the longer side is the back or posterior side. This means that when the clam moves, it'll move in the direction of the shorter side. The clam also has rings, kind of like a tree. These rings can tell you that the clam is old. We humans have to look at things like gray hair or wrinkles, but for clams, just count the rings. The part closest to the hinge here would be the oldest part of the clam, and the part further away would be the newest. Now I'm going to pry open the clam, and for that I'll have to cut through some tough muscles that keep the shells closed. Clams have two of these, one on each side, and they're called adductor muscles. These muscles help the animal clam up to protect itself from predators. Yes, I know that was a bad joke. No, I'm standing by it. Now I'm going to put a blade between the two shells and try to cut through the adductor muscles. Okay, this clam is now open for business. Let's look at the internal anatomy. This thing that's sticking to the shell, it's called a mantle. It's a sheet of cells that make the shell. Oh, that's a pretty good tongue twister. Sheet of cells that make the shell. Sheet of cells that make the shell. Say it out 5 times really fast. Sheet of cells that make the shell, 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 sheet of cells that make the shell. The clam has two mantles, one for each shell. The mantle makes the shell by secreting proteins and minerals. When clams die and leave their empty shells behind, hermit crabs may take the shell to live in, because hey, it's free real estate. Now I'm going to try to peel back the mantle. This one here and this one here are the two adductor muscles we cut through earlier. Now you can see that the surface here is very shiny. This is called the nacreous layer, or also the mother of pearl for people who are only interested in clams for their pearls. When some debris gets caught in a clam, the same materials that make this layer coats that debris, forming a pearl. Now, when I lift the mantle, these flaps you see here are the gills. There's one on this side and one on the other side, right here. These gills serve the two important functions of breathing and eating by removing oxygen and food particles from the water. These food particles then travel to the labial palps, right here, which pushes the food into the mouth. The mouth should be somewhere below the labial palps, and if we're lucky, we'll see it. Well, it seems like Lady Luck has forsaken us today, my friends. The anus is on the opposite end, where waste is expelled, but that's also really hard to see, so guess not. Now, if I remove all these, we'll be able to see the foot. Right here, the foot is a muscular structure that helps the clam move around and to burrow into the sand. Now you know that clams travel by foot. No, I'm not apologizing for that joke either. You knew what you were in for after that first one. Attached to the foot here is a large area that's called the visceral mass. Yeah, sounds gross, but it just means it's where a lot of the organs are. I'm going to use my scalpel to carefully peel back the skin from here. Okay, so the yellowish mass you see here are the gonads, or the reproductive organs, which is also the term for we can't tell if it's male or female. The greenish thing here is the digestive gland, which releases digestive enzymes that helps the clam digest its food. Another part of the digestive system of the clam are the intestines that are buried in the gonads. We're gonna look for that. So the intestines absorb the digested nutrients from the food that the clam digested. I started a mental drinking game for the word digest a while back and have mentally gotten alcohol poisoning by now. Oh, found it. These are the intestines. Looks a lot like a noodle. A forbidden noodle. Okay, I know it was a joke, but this actually looks a lot like a noodle. Like disturbingly so. Now, way up by the hinge is the heart. I'm going to try to dig it out. The clam has an open circulatory system, unlike us humans, who have a closed circulatory system. An open circulatory system is a bit like a jacuzzi. The body cavity is filled with a fluid called hemolymph that sloshes around the internal organs, helped along by the pumping of the heart. Now, if we pull this out, you might be able to see that there are holes in the heart. Here and here. This is also characteristic of an open circulatory system. Interestingly, you can also see this darker tube here, which is the intestine. And yes, the intestine passes partly through the heart in a clam. The way to a clam's heart is truly through its stomach. Now, you may have heard the phrase, as happy as a clam. Unfortunately, clams cannot enjoy their happiness, as they do not have a well-developed nervous system. Evolution is cruel like that sometimes. And that's the end of the clam dissection. Thanks for staying, folks. A fun fact about clams to send you on your way. A species of clam called giant clams have hundreds of tiny eyes all over their bodies. Giant clams can also live over 100 years. So the next time you dive into the ocean, carry with you the knowledge that you may be being watched by something that has been staring upwards with its hundreds of eyes for 100 years.